This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
All right, X-Zone Nation, as you heard me in the previous segment with Dr. Doug Rockey, the X-Zone is going to be working with Dr. Rockey and his warriors to get this worldwide petition going to all the leaders who are responsible for the veterans' mess in each one of their country, and that includes Canada, the United States, Australia, the United Kingdom, Israel, just to name a few. And we're also going to send Pope Francis a little letter and getting it signed in petition format as well. Something's got to change. We have to take care of those who have been taking care of us. It's that simple. X-Zone Nation, my blood pressure is back down to normal now. So I've invited my good friend Howard Bloom to join us this hour to talk about what in the hell is going on in this crazy world of ours. Howard has been on the show a number of times. He's the author of The God Problem, How a Godless Cosmos Creates. He is the author of The Lucifer Principle, a scientific expedition into the forces of history, Global Brain, the evolution of mass mind from the Big Bang to the 21st century. Global Brain, the evolution of... Oh, I already said that, didn't I? The genius of the beast, and so on and so forth. His website is www.howardbloom.net. And Howard, welcome back from your trip to California.
Thanks, Rob. It is always a pleasure to be with you, and one of the things that you do for me is you give me homework assignments.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping a loose eye on the state of the world while I was engaged in these very heavy-duty brainstorming sessions at the Keck Institute for Space Studies at Caltech with a bunch of NASA JPL people, Jet Propulsion Lab people. But I've gone into it in a little more depth, and it's been a week of amazing events, and it's been a week of some scary things, but it has also been a week of great hope, and the reason is the President Obama's speech today. And some people have slammed it. The Washington Post has slammed it as basically giving up on foreign policy. It is not giving up on foreign policy. It's one of the smartest statements I've read, and if only the President can do what he says,
here we go again. If he does what he says, like in Syria, there's the red line.
Yes, exactly. But his approach is to avoid war in the way that we've been making it for the last 20 years. We have been, when there's a problem, when there's a mosquito, we've been getting an elephant to step on it. And the elephant hasn't necessarily always gotten the mosquito, but it's always made a big hole in the ground. So, I mean, that was the case with the war in Afghanistan. That was the case with the war in Iraq. We're not too much further with Afghanistan than we were when we started, although drone strikes and targeted missions like the one against Osama bin Laden have been very effective. But sending a total of 2.5 million men, that's how many people have gone to Afghanistan and Iraq, and spending $3 trillion, which is what we spent, has turned out to be a great way to lose a war and to lose your economy.
Not to mention lose face as President of the United States.
Yes, exactly. And so George Bush, President Obama is not the only one who makes himself look foolish. He did that with the red line. George Bush, when he flew to the aircraft carrier and announced that we had won in Iraq, showed equally bad judgment. And the trick is to try to carry out whatever it is we're trying to carry out. Foreign policy, you know the old line that war is policy, is politics by other means. Well, the trick is to find less expensive means that kill fewer people in order to accomplish the same thing, like the raid on Abbottabad that bagged Osama bin Laden, like the targeted drone strikes on the leaders of Al-Qaeda. Those things are smart moves. They cost very little money, and or comparatively little money. They kill as few people as possible. And guess who called for this kind of smarter, faster, cheaper war using modern technologies? It was Donald Rumsfeld. And now, of all the ironies, it's Barack Obama who is doing the kind of thing that Donald Rumsfeld called for.
So you actually applauded the speech today?
Yes, I certainly did. I read it. I started by getting the commentaries on it, and they were all negative. But then I figured before reading the commentaries, I should read the darned speech. So I found the whole transcript, and it is terrific. In fact, I have a friend who's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He's at a very high level, and he was shipped for mysterious reasons 2 months ago to Mali. Well, this speech explains what he's doing in Mali. So I sent him an email. I mean, you'd think in Mali somebody would be inaccessible. Not true. It's the age of Skype. It's the age of the Internet. He called me last week on Skype when I was in California. We had a clearer connection than we have when he's in Washington. And basically what Barack Obama said was that we need to cultivate our allies. We can't be the only ones fighting. Others have to pick up part of that burden. We have to train them militarily so that they can handle things, and we don't have to be the go-to place for everything, but he wants to remain the go-to place.
Right. Speaking about go-to places, you and I have to go to this commercial break that's coming up in 15 seconds from now. Howard Bloom is our special guest, www.howardbloom.net. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break with Howard as we continue here in the X Zone. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Welcome back to the X Zone. I'd like to say hello to all the listeners back with us on Turquoise Radio. Hey guys, we missed you. Speaking about missing somebody, Howard Bloom is my guest. I miss having this guy on. He's one of the most refreshing guests I have here. Had the pleasure of knowing Howard for a number of years. And Howard, you and I have talked about some strange things over the years.
We've been talking for about 15 years.
15 years, wow.
Yes, so we have had a fair opportunity to get into some very unusual things.
In your learned opinion, my friend, what is the most bizarre story in the news today?
The worst story in the news,
okay.
The story that is the most upsetting in the news, is that a woman in Lahore, in Pakistan, married a man that she loved. Mm-hmm. She was 3 months pregnant. Her family accused her husband of having kidnapped her. They were in a court case. They all showed up in the last 48 hours at the court, and outside the court, with the police watching, the family decided to stone her to death. And they kicked her to the pavement, they picked up bricks, they smashed her head, and they killed her for not allowing herself to be used as property, not allowing herself to be property used to form family alliances, but instead behaving like a Western human being with civil rights. And there's another case in the Sudan where a woman is apparently been condemned to death for being a Christian, mm-hmm. probably because she converted from Islam, and she is scheduled to be stoned to death.
Wow.
And these things cannot happen. They cannot happen. I mean, there's obviously the issue that's really been driving the news for the last, since Friday, is the story of Elliot Rodger. And here's a person in Santa Barbara, California.
Mm-hmm.
You know that he shot
yes.
roughly 7 people. He injured a whole bunch of others. First he stabbed his 3 apparently roommates, and then went out to the Santa Barbara campus and started killing people. And that's a very disturbing story too, but it's a story of a different kind, because there's a ritual that's been established for people who are deeply disaffected and who have emotional and mental problems. And the ritual is get yourself a lot of guns, which is made very easy by our, what would you call them, our self-destructive suicidal gun laws.
Yeah.
To make guns available to everybody. And get yourself a bunch of guns, kill a bunch of people, go out in a blaze of glory, shoot yourself in the head, knowing that you will be in the headlines the next day, that you will finally be getting attention, that you will get your 141-page manifesto read. I'm, in fact, reading it. That was a manifesto that Elliot Rodger left behind. And this is a problem we have to deal with, but it's a very difficult one. People have said to me, well, a psychologist should have screened him. He had 2 psychotherapists. He was in therapy on a very regular basis. His parents knew that he was having emotional problems. Mm-hmm. He grew up under privileged circumstances. His father was English, his mother was Malaysian, and his father was a successful photographer who was making a transition to becoming a successful director. He was involved in directing one of the Hunger Games films. He was assistant director on the Hunger Games film. This was a kid who grew up in England in the countryside, with trips to Spain, with trips to Malaysia, with trips all over the place. He was very proud of those trips. He had his own BMW, for God's sakes. So this isn't a case of deprivation. It's not a case of poverty. It is not a case of a person having his dignity squashed out of him by normal means. Or let's put that differently. It is a person who had his dignity squashed out of him by very, very normal means, by something that nature, a technique that nature has set up herself. And that is you enter adolescence, you're filled with sexual hormones. If you're short or if you're ugly or if, as in his case, you have Asperger's syndrome and you have a difficult time getting along with people, girls shun you. And for a girl or for a boy, every time you're rejected, it hurts. it hurts badly. That is no excuse to kill people. It's a normal experience almost all of us go through. And yet, what drove him to this is the same normal stuff that once